Hey, Bright Lights, welcome back to the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. This is your destination for thoughtful weekly videos that deal specifically with the science behind design for well-being. My name is Angela, and I am an architect, researcher, and feng shui practitioner. And I use my specially designed deck of cards to explore the research that I've been doing in a way that's fun and accessible, even if you are not a design professional like me. We do this by drawing a card from each part of the deck. The foundational concepts are the core theories and research that deal with wellness or dis-ease. And then the salutogenic aspects part of the deck, these are 5 core theories that my research has shown impact well-being. But there are other theories behind them. So these work like alphabets. And we draw a card from each, and every week you're going to hear something different because the 2 cards are going to be talked about together. So you don't get an overwhelming amount of information. You just get the information that you need to hear this week for a project you're working on, for something you want to do in your house, or way you want to change things at your workplace, your kids' school, in your community, whatever it is. So I always set an intention that the cards I draw are the message that we need to hear, the issues we need to think about and work with for the week. And the card I drew from the foundational concepts part of the deck is normalization. Now you can see it is a pot on a stove slowly coming to a boil. Now, if you've ever been waiting for something to get to a boil, you know that it can feel like it never gets there. And that's because it happens really gradually. And that's exactly what normalization is. We experience things or situations over time, and they gradually become our normal. They become the set point through which we understand the world. And it could be good things or it can be bad things. When we are dealing with a lot of things that we just accept about the built environment that we're in, or the conditions that we have to work in that involve space or furniture or processes that maybe are made a little bit more difficult by the way a space is set up, we often don't think to question that it could be a different way. So this card is here to help remind us to be a lot more conscious about our space and how it is either helping or hurting us do the things that we need to do in the space. Because once we are conscious of it, once we are aware of it, then we can take steps to make changes. So if something is working well, we can make sure that we enhance it, that we repeat it in other situations. If something is not working, we can start to look at how we could alter it so that it would work better. And even if you make a change and the new thing doesn't quite work, that's okay. You learned something. And by just not accepting the status quo, it is amazing how powerfully we can make change. Now, the companion card that I drew is biomimicry. Now, biomimicry comes from the biophilia part of the deck. Biophilia is I relate. It is an aspect that basically says that as human beings, we're part of nature. So we are hardwired to connect and resonate with the natural world. When we do, when we can, we naturally feel calmer and more at peace. And when we don't, we, without even necessarily being consciously aware of it, can feel a little bit more agitated. Now, biophilia is associated with the wood element in feng shui, and wood is all about connectivity and networks and the way that things are related to one another. Much like in the natural world, we have ecosystems and everything is connected. If you take one thing off balance, then nothing else works. So biomimicry, very specifically, is about learning from nature and natural systems or features that plants or animals might have that help them function really well, and using that to solve human problems. It also is a way to have regenerative solutions so we can eliminate waste and have solutions that are resonant with the natural world. So if we put these together, how do they connect, normalization and biomimicry? Well, first of all, we can think about normalization in the sense of what we consider standard or normal, right? We know that a lot of what we have as tools or standard heights or widths or depths of things, sizes of furniture, are based on standards for an average white male. It does not take into account other populations and certainly doesn't take into account women or children. Therefore, we have inadvertently, most of us, grown up coping with a world that wasn't really designed for us. And even if you are a white male, you could very well be shorter or taller or fatter or thinner than that standard. So even you are probably struggling more than you realize and more than you have to. So by normalizing these standards, what we've done is essentially created a lot of inequities and unintended hardships for most of the population. How could we think about that? How could we change that? We can also think about how we are applying the framework of biomimicry and how it can help us to question the way that we build. So, as we know, our primary purpose of a building is shelter from the elements, and then we build up from there to all of the other functions we need, to the beauty we need, to the pleasure we want to get out of that environment. But what if we could begin to make this biomimicry approach that is not only more in tune with nature, but more sustainable, more of the norm? If we could start to question a lot of the ways that we build and instead look to innovate. And finally, how could we think about how we look at performance? When we just look at a standard way to understand how well a building is performing, we might look at maintenance or utility bills or whether it has historic value. But if we were to have a different way of defining success and to create new standards and normal performance goals based on sustainability, based on quality of life, we may end up in a very different place. So, as you can see, by learning a little bit more about normalization and being a little bit more aware, starting to question things that we just take for granted in our daily life, we can become more aware of how we could make positive change. And by looking to a process like biomimicry and what we can learn from that, we can develop spaces that perform better, are more sustainable and resilient, and connect us more deeply to the natural world. So if you enjoyed this episode, support the channel by liking, subscribing, leaving a comment. That is the very best way that you can help more people find this content, as well as telling your friends. I hope you had some really good takeaways that you can put to use this week. If nothing else, just a little bit more awareness. So thank you for listening.